5 years ago, on an episode of the now-cancelled Ellen DeGeneres show, host Ellen finds herself interviewing actress Dakota Johnson, and while making some lighthearted jokes and welcoming her to the show, she points out that Dakota Johnson's birthday was just a month ago. Where were you? How was the party? And why wasn't I invited? To which Dakota Johnson, in a now famous clip online, responds, "No, Ellen, that's actually not the truth."
How was the party? I wasn't invited.
Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited.
Going on to explain that just a year earlier, Dakota Johnson was on the same TV show where Ellen DeGeneres made the same comment about not being invited to her birthday party despite them barely knowing each other. And so Dakota Johnson went out of her way to invite Ellen to her birthday party this year, only to be met with the same joke on the same TV show after Ellen DeGeneres didn't even show up to her birthday party.
Last year, you gave me a bunch of about not inviting you, but I didn't even know you wanted to be invited. But I did invite you and you didn't come. So
I know what you're thinking. Sumito, I love listening about how celebrities aren't actually friends in real life. That's totally why I watch your channel. That's not the interesting bit. The interesting bit is that this little bit of behind the mask viewership that showed off that Ellen DeGeneres might not be quite so nice and friendly of an individual as she makes herself seem on TV by giving away gifts and interviewing viral memes and what have you. From what it seems, this interview and this clip going viral actually sparked a bigger conversation that led to other people, other guests, other celebrities, other people on Ellen DeGeneres' show to be more vocal about the reality of what Ellen was like and was like to work with. All of this culminated in just a few short years later, the Ellen DeGeneres show would find itself canceled. Not canceled like how we use it on YouTube, I mean like actually taken off the air. And so the headlines write themselves. Dakota Johnson gags Ellen so bad that she has to quit her show. But what if I told you the rabbit hole actually goes much deeper than that? It's not an awkward moment with Dakota Johnson that led to the Ellen DeGeneres show getting canceled. No, in fact, it might be something as convoluted as the biggest butterfly effect to hit the internet. The Ellen DeGeneres show might have been canceled because of the September 11th terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center.
That's a lot of nuts!
The first Gamer Supps collab of 2025. There is a new Gamer Supps waifu cup, a new merch line called Finger Bang, and you guys can pick it up for an extra 10% off using my link in the description. Know that you're getting some great stuff as well as supporting the show. I thank you in advance. This story begins the morning of September 11th, 2001. Obviously. Our main character for the time being is a gentleman by the name of Gerard, who works as an intern at Cartoon Network. Just a week before the September 11th attacks, Cartoon Network announced a new television programming hour that they would be calling Adult Swim, a more adult-focused, animated Cartoon Network under the subsidiary of Cartoon Network, and this would allow for creatives to be able to make cartoons that were a little bit raunchier, as I'm sure you're familiar now. Gerard had been working and co-created a TV show by the name of The Breakfast Monkey, about a Scandinavian monkey superhero who would try to inform people about the importance of eating breakfast every morning, which sounds great. But unfortunately, Cartoon Network felt like this pitch was a little bit too similar to their already well-doing Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and as a result told him that they wouldn't be making his show. As if Gerard's week couldn't get any worse, he would find himself hearing a large explosion during his commute to work and would get off of his train or cab or bike or whatever to find the plane that had impacted the World Trade Center. According to some places on the internet, this is actually him in this picture, the gentleman with the bag over his shoulder right next to the street lamp, which is awful. Gerard found himself so moved, so traumatized by witnessing the attack more or less firsthand that he decided that it might be time for a career change, and realizing that he didn't have a future in making the show that he had tried to develop at Cartoon Network, Gerard wanted to make a major shift in his career plan and ideally try and focus on music and try to make a band that would allow him to express the sorrow and trauma that he felt he wasn't able to in his everyday life, and would actually find a lot of mainstream success. That band is one you may have heard of. It was named My Chemical Romance. Yes, the Gerard I'm talking about is Gerard Way, the lead singer and creator of the band My Chemical Romance, a band that was mostly popular in the early 2000s in the alternative rock, pop, punk rock era along the lines of, you know, Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco and what have you. And Gerard Way has said in interviews since then that the band's music was very much a therapeutic expression of their shared traumas and what have you, hardships through life, one of the most iconic issues of which obviously being the September 11th terrorist attacks. They actually have a song by the name of Skylines and Turnstiles off of their album I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love, specifically about the September 11th attacks, which means that 9/11 indirectly affected the creation of My Chemical Romance. It directly influenced Gerard Way's change in career, and not to jump the gun too much on the meme that we're talking about, but this in and of itself has already been a bit of a meme on the internet that 9/11 caused the creation of My Chemical Romance. To take it yet another step, famously, Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane was due to be on the plane that would be hijacked during the September 11th attacks, but he missed his flight because he was hungover and showed up 15 minutes too late to board, which also means that 9/11 indirectly also affected the creation of Family Guy to some extent. My Chemical Romance would go on to make music for several years, inspiring an entire genre of music, an entire generation of youthful people to be inspired by their music, myself included, although I will admit I was probably not as inspired as one young woman by the name of Stephanie, who stated that listening to the dark fantasy and dark themes of the My Chemical Romance albums led to her working on her own book about dark fantasy in which a young woman falls in love with a vampire and has to pick between him or a werewolf. You guys may have heard of this series. It's called Twilight. That's right, Stephanie Meyer, the author of the Twilight saga, has stated My Chemical Romance as one of the major inspirations for her writing her book, specifically stating that the My Chemical Romance song Famous Last Words feels like to her a romantic rendition of Jacob, the werewolf character's entire storyline, and even putting I'm Not Okay, I Promise, the My Chemical Romance song, under her Twilight playlist, a list of songs that she stated she listened to inspire her while writing Twilight. Stephanie Meyer would actually end up reaching out to My Chemical Romance to do music for the film adaptations to her book. The band would turn her down and would later actually write a song about the entire situation titled Vampire Money. Stephanie Meyer's Twilight, both the books and the movies, were a mainstream success, inspiring almost everybody and their mother, although specifically young women through the entirety of the world, to watch and fantasize about these characters and this storyline. In fact, I specifically remember my girlfriend in middle school was a huge Twilight fan, and when she asked me if I was Team Edward or Team Jacob, she broke up with me when I told her that I had been cheating on her. But that's a different story. The main thing to pay attention to is that this inspired a tremendous amount of fan fiction amongst the internet. Everybody and their mom was writing their own fan stories, their own fantasized versions of these characters and their own situations, one particular a little more important than the rest. What I would argue is probably the most famous Twilight fan fiction in history was a BDSM themed fan fiction from Twilight by the author E.L. James. This original Twilight fan fiction had the characters named as Edward and Bella, and you can still find the original fan fiction floating around online by the name of Master of the Universe. Of course, as it became more and more popular, she changed the names to be Christian and Anastasia, and would change the original working title from Master of the Universe to its now known title, 50 Shades of Grey. That's right, if you didn't know, 50 Shades of Grey very famously started out as a fan fiction, a BDSM fan fiction sort of fetishizing the two main characters, Edward and Bella, which means 9/11 didn't just inspire the creation of My Chemical Romance, which inspired the creation of Twilight, but all of that would then go on to inspire 50 Shades of Grey. When 50 Shades of Grey saw mainstream success as a book, obviously it was then made into a film adaptation, and when they made it into a film, guess who stars in that film? Our very own Dakota Johnson, which means 9/11 led to My Chemical Romance, led to Twilight, led to 50 Shades of Grey, led to Dakota Johnson becoming the actress that she was, being interviewed by Ellen, and then resulting in the viral moment that would ultimately lead to the cancellation of the Ellen DeGeneres Show. Like I said, probably the wildest butterfly effect to ever hit the internet, and what do we have to show for it? If Ellen DeGeneres had just gone to Dakota Johnson's birthday party, she might still have a TV show to this date, but where was she? Well, we know that Dakota Johnson's birthday is October 4th, and she states that her birthday was on the 5th. We don't know where Ellen DeGeneres was on the 5th of October. However, the day afterwards, on October 6th, Ellen DeGeneres was seen very famously photographed at a Dallas Cowboys football game, sitting next to George W. Bush. Coincidence? Am I grasping at straws? Is this all completely unrelated and I'm reaching a little bit too far? Probably, but it's funnier to think of this as some sort of weird coincidence that lets us know we're all living in a simulation. But one thing I can say is that I'm glad Ellen DeGeneres is off the air. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed watching, please subscribe or leave a like down in the comments. If you have other weirdly convoluted butterfly effects, I am excited to read them down in the comments. A big thank you to the patrons scrolling in the back. Remember to buy Gamer Subs with my link in the description, and I'll catch you guys on Monday, probably. Peace.